Have you ever had that feeling of wanting to go home, but you just don't even know for sure where home is? When I was a little girl, I used to take walks in our yard at night and stare up at the stars. And I was yearning for something, but I didn't quite know what it was. I loved the song, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. They played it in my favorite movie, The American Tale. And something about that song and looking at the stars made me feel like I could get just a little bit closer to that feeling of home. My childhood was extremely painful, and my heart ached and yearned for a place that I felt loved and safe and at peace. I didn't know why the stars seemed so familiar, or why looking up into the night sky made me feel closer to home. I must have stared at the stars and cried 1,000 times. And come to find out, this feeling is actually really common in the spiritual community. Some even identify as starseeds. Others will say, I just don't want to be here. I don't want to do this anymore. And while some mean here on planet Earth, others even mean within this body or this lifetime. We just want to go back to wherever it is that we came from. And while I can certainly relate, on the other side of the healing journey, it is a bit sad because many of us chose to come here for a reason, for this exact time, and it's seemingly overwhelming or unbearable. Come to find out, that's the very definition of trauma, an overwhelming experience that is too much for us to handle. Whether it was too much too soon or too little for too long, the system is overwhelmed and we just can't take anymore. Who could blame us for wanting to find peace and safety? But I have good news for you today. You don't have to go home or wherever that might be to find that feeling of home, that feeling of peace and safety and love and connection. The feeling of rightness that we know resonates as truth in our body. You see, in psychology, there's something called the diathesis model. We are like a cup. And as we fill with the stressors or the experiences of life, we have a capacity or a limit. And when we have reached that capacity, we spill over. This is stress. This is trauma responses. This is shutdown. This is fight, flight, fawn, or freeze. And so the good news is when we learn how to empty our cup, we can start to regain our energy and our capacity to feel safe in our bodies and to not only desire to be here in this life, but to feel at home in our bodies and in our lives. So how do we empty our cup? We learn how to close the stress responses that are continuing to task our system and take away the energy, which makes the rest of life overwhelming or unbearable. If we can learn to sit with uncomfortable emotions, be with the sensations in our body and sit with them until the stress response closes and the triggers or the intensity dissipates, that is how we empty our cup. We also need to befriend the little parts within us. Internal family systems suggest that we have parts. We are made up of parts, and many of them live in us. There are protector parts, which can look a little bit like a trauma response. We also have our inner child parts. The 3-year-old, the 5-year-old, the 7-year-old, the 10-year-old, all of these versions of us live inside of us, and they need our love and attention. Otherwise, they feel abandoned and left alone. And what 3-year-old can navigate life on their own? They would be overwhelmed. They need our adult self, our attention, our love, and our focus to come inward and to be with them so that they have the capacity to deal with what is being brought our way. When we become the loving, perfect parent that we wish we had for our internal parts, we can handle anything. The feeling of overwhelm and that open trauma response is extremely tasking for the body. It takes a lot of energy to be able to manage, hold, protect, and defend against these open trauma responses or very highly sensitive triggers. And the evidence of that is the highly sensitized emotions or that exaggerated response that you might have to an event in your life that triggers an old wound. Open stress responses or highly sensitized triggers are connected to big emotions in the body, and those big emotions act as energetic blocks. The biggest issue of all is it is exacerbated by a relational wound. At some point in your life, a person hurt you, and that is what causes us to struggle, and that keeps us from accessing the love and connection that will not only heal your wounds, but also heal humanity. And I understand that this explanation may even in and of itself be a little bit overwhelming because it's a complex issue. It's a felt sense and not a cognitive process. This is why talk therapy alone does not work. The body keeps the score. And for some, that will be good news because rehashing your problems over and over and over really doesn't solve much. And most of us know that. And that's why it's such good news that the body is the key. We don't have to talk about it. We just have to feel it in our body. Your body is a magical and beautiful vessel that knows how to heal you, and it will handle the healing all on its own if we could just get the cognitive processes out of the way. The body is not only designed to heal, but it is the temple for the spirit. God eternal within your body is written on the codes of your DNA. You could not be any closer to the love and the support that you are seeking. The process is relatively simple, so I'll outline it for you one more time. The next time you have that feeling of, I just want to go home, I can't handle this anymore, look at what caused you to feel that way, what triggered that emotion, and then find the sensation in your body. Notice what area of your body calls your attention most. And then you can ask, how old does this feeling feel? Let that come from your body. Don't ask the mind to go find it. Be patient and wait for as long as it takes for the body to say, oh, 3 years old, I started to feel this way. And the version that presents is likely holding on to a trauma, an open stress response, and likely even a belief, a limiting belief that is keeping you from healing, closing that stress response, and enjoying life. And so from there, all you need to do is sit with that part. Imagine in your mind's eye, the adult version of yourself goes to that 3-year-old part. Sit down next to them, look at them in the eye, and be with them in a comforting way that they're open to. Don't try to speak to them or at them. Don't try to force them to accept a hug, but rather be with them in the way that they need you to be. And through this process, you are befriending parts of yourself. There are parts that live inside of you that feel rejected and abandoned and terrified, afraid. They may even hide in the dark recesses of your mind and your body. The pain and the overwhelming experience that they went through caused you to fracture off and to separate that part of you. And it is those lost and scared parts of you that keep recreating similar circumstances, causing you to feel more and more overwhelmed because the nervous system, the body, the heart, the soul, they all desire healing. They desire coming back to wholeness. The nervous system desires homeostasis. And so we will keep recreating this experience to help us see where the healing needs to happen. Essentially, they're asking for your help. They're asking for your love and attention. So when you find them and you sit with them, you spend time with them, you love on them like a perfect parent would love their child, you're allowing them to let go, to close that stress response, to desensitize the triggers, to reprogram the subconscious belief that they decided in that moment. And through this process, you're allowing them to let go when they are ready in the ways that they feel necessary. All you need to do is be patient. The patience is the hard part, sitting with it and staying with it. It's not just 1 or 2 minutes. Sometimes it's 5 or 10 or 20 or 30. But don't walk away until that little inner child part or that protector part is satisfied and ready to release and what we call resourcing. They've moved into a positive perspective and a new, more expansive, resourceful belief around life and how they move through life. And when they decide that they have come to a place of healing, they will no longer recreate that same scenario over and over, looking for healing because it is complete. And this is the feeling of coming home to ourselves. When we see those lost parts, we love on them and they are coming back to life. They are stepping into their higher potential. That feeling is coming home to yourself. Reuniting with our parts is the key to freedom, growth, and healing. So we can finally have that felt sense, that embodied knowing of wholeness. We finally feel at home in our own bodies. And it gives the term home is where the heart is a new meaning because it's literal. Your home is where your heart is, in your body, inside yourself. If you can tap into that God source energy that lives within you and reunite those parts, you will seek nothing outside of you any longer. You can finally access home now. In this moment, there is no more waiting. Come home to yourself. You see, those overwhelming experiences cause us to move through life in a way we would not otherwise. The person we thought we were ends up being trauma responses instead of our true, innate, authentic nature. Trauma robs you of your ability to move through life the way you would like to. And in order to truly feel at home in yourself, to be authentically you, to align to your original design, to take your power back and to step into your life purpose, we must learn to befriend our body, to go within, and to become whole again by integrating our parts. If you want to start to understand how to differentiate between your true authentic nature and your trauma responses, check out this video, 21 Signs You Might Have Complex Trauma. I love you, my friends. Namaste.